All right. Well, let's get started. Look, I actually want to read a little bit of a timeline reported by Political Playbook this morning. So we are currently on the second day of a partial government shutdown. Playbook is reporting that tomorrow, Friday, Republicans will be voting on another CR, which means Democrats Republicans and Democrats will have to take a vote. This isn't just now just their position through words and through rhetoric. It is another voting opportunity. House Republicans aren't in session till next week. And then next Friday is a key date because next Friday would be the first day that government employees do not receive a check. Many of them are currently furloughed. It's a partial shutdown, so not all departments and not all government employees are not working. But many are them furloughed, and even the ones who are working, next Friday would be the first date that they wouldn't receive a check. I think that would add pressure to the situation. But I want to get started with Marco. When you look at this shutdown, it's no secret that both sides are pointing to their contrincantes, to their opposition. Democrats are standing firm on that this is their opportunity, which what they say is fighting for healthcare, specifically the Obamacare subsidies. But there are a lot of critics who say that this is not the moment for that fight, that they can pass a clean CR and that they can have this negotiation and this debate down the line. There's also reports that Schumer is feeling a lot of pressure because earlier this year they passed a CR extending funding, and many on the left were saying that he didn't fight. How do you view what Democrats are doing right now in this standoff?
Oh, first, in a shutdown, to be honest, it's everybody loses. It's not just one party, because as we've seen poll after poll, Americans do not feel like government is being efficient, get things done, and this just answers their deepest issues is that government cannot get things done. Sorry for the word, but that's the truth. That's what they say. So everybody loses, but obviously, right now, who controls the White House? Who controls the House? Who controls the Senate? Are the Republicans. They just had to sit down with those Democratic senators to get them to help out passing that continuing resolution. And here, I think we have to make it clear that Democrats are not asking for anything crazy. Democrats are not asking the government to fund billions of dollars to refurbish a plane that the president is getting from Qatar. They're not asking billions of dollars to help out the economy, to prop up the economy of Trump allies in Argentina. They're not asking for anything that is not beneficial to the American people. They're asking just to extend these subsidies that are key for millions of Americans that depend on Obamacare to get health insurance. Again, this is not a big ask. This at the end is also a benefit for a lot of the Republican electorate, the working class people that voted for President Trump in the past election. They're the ones that use a lot of this Obamacare. I want to highlight where you guys are in Miami. Miami's and Doral, the two biggest cities in the country with Obamacare recipients. If these subsidies are not extended, the Hispanic community in South Florida are going to be the biggest victims of this. And why this is important is because right now we're not doing that great, despite from the rhetoric in the White House. We have an economy that's shedding jobs. We just saw yesterday, ADP reported that in the month of September, the private sector lost 34,000 jobs. In August, we also saw a decrease, and we see the numbers going down. We're also seeing prices not going down as promised during the election. They're actually going up thanks to tariffs and not solving the issues that we had in the last couple of years. And there's also uncertainty at the global level, causing people to lose hope on their financial well-being going forward. So I think Democrats standing their ground, asking for Republicans for something that's really common sense is let's keep helping the working class keep their health insurance prices controlled so they can still go to a doctor, they can still keep their parents, their kids healthy. That's not a big ask
Yeah. So
compared to other things that they're doing, which is, again, we're sending money to Argentina, but we cannot help our people here keep health insurance. And it's funny because that was the language the Republicans were using in the election. So right now, that's the message that people are seeing. So I think that ask is not that big. And Democrats, and there's discussion of should they do it now? Should they done it earlier? This is probably the only moment up until the midterms where Democrats will have leverage, and it's not leverage to satisfy the quibs of the president, like again financing their refurbished plane, helping up Argentina. It's helping the working people. So I think Democrats are doing the right thing. Again, we should see a solution pretty fast because at the end of the day, why now? Why not later, as Republicans say? Is because the last day for health insurance to set up their prices for next year is November 1st. They want to do a continuing resolution up
Hmm.
until the end of November. So this is the moment to actually get this done and help the American people. So I think this is the moment to do it.
Soledad, on the Republican side, I want to get your analysis because to what we just heard, Marcos referred to. Republicans are saying that they are willing to have this discussion, right? They're saying let's negotiate, let's talk, but why sort of hold the government hostage? Let's pass the clean CR. Many Republicans are also saying that many of these Obamacare subsidies were temporary. They were done during the pandemic era. Let's say Republicans might be right on their principle, but the reality is that shutdown also is a little bit of a PR game, and typically, historically, the party in power receives a little bit slightly more of the blame because they tend to be in power. Obviously, we know the nuances that you need in the Senate, at least the 60 votes. How do you see the Republican position here? Or do they have somewhat of an advantage in the sense that many people are starting to talk about the nuances? They're realizing that Democrats are going to have to vote in favor of something if they do want to reopen the government. I mean, how do you see the Republican point of view in this space?
Well, how to say Republican or Democrat? My point of view as an American is that I'm not a big fan when people don't do their job. So, final stop.
And that's a key
And,
point.
and
Both of you
yes,
guys made. Let's just reemphasize that because the reason the government's shutting down is not that the money isn't there. The money is in the Treasury, but Congress has an appropriations process where they need to
Which-
say where the funds go.
and I understand the November 1st deadline, but they've known this for months, and they waited until the very last moment to do this PR stunt, which is what it is. It's a PR stunt. They are not doing their job, and they are proving what most Americans think. And I agree with Marco. He just said that, which is that our government is not efficient enough. And I'm not a big fan of that. That being said, a few things that I would like to clarify. One, yes, those the things that are being discussed right now, those were temporary. And at some point, I think that we need to understand that, and politicians need to understand that when temporary things are approved, that means that at some point they're going to end. I think that we need to have a serious discussion about Obamacare and about our health system. And I don't know why
general, yeah.
Democrats and Republicans have not done their job and fixed this huge issue. We spend more money than any other nation in the world in our healthcare system, and still is extremely deficient. There are many things to take into consideration here. Some people are saying that this benefits, it's not only for the working class, but also for people who are not even like legal residents of the United States. And that's a discussion worth having. Do we have to wait until the very last moment to have this discussion and shut down our government? I don't think that's the way to do things. And unfortunately, that's the way time and time our politicians have chosen to do things. And at some point, we need to stop this. We cannot keep shutting our government because they're incapable of reaching an agreement. They're incapable of solving issues that we've been carrying for decades, like the problems with our healthcare system, and they are not solving it. That being said, I would like, and I know this is not the point of the discussion, and I cannot even like discuss too much this because of my job aside from what I'm doing here. But I would encourage everybody to read what's going on with Argentina. It's a swap. Aside from the headlines, if you read a little more than a headline or an Instagram reel, you would understand that the way this works, it's not a bailout to Argentina. This is actually some help that the U.S. is going to give Argentina because strategically the U.S. feels that they have to do this. But it's not that we're using the taxpayers' dollars to bail out Argentina. We're using the taxpayers' dollars to help Argentina and to make that money back. So I would encourage everybody to read exactly what it is and go beyond this headline.
Yeah, we'll have to dig into that topic down the line. We had Frank Alley here about 2 days ago, and he spoke a little bit. We did a segment on the influence of China in South America, and we kind of went into the details of how the U.S. used to have a larger influence and how China little by little has been moving in.
Plus, we're not talking about the same budget here. So it's literally a lie to say that we are using the money to bail out Argentina, money that we are not using for our healthcare system. It's literally a lie.
Yeah, I think it's a topic that we'll be able to do a full segment on. Marco, as you look at the dynamics here, I think there's a little bit of agreement here, right? I think the agreement has been that government hasn't been doing their job, Congress hasn't been doing their job, and this isn't the first time. I think we both have a laundry list where we can maybe point to both sides together and point where both parties haven't fulfilled what their duty is. But there's also a little bit of agreement that there is a little bit of PR stunts on both sides. I think both sides try to use this as a way to maybe either make political points or make sure that their other side might be losing some of them. I mean, Donald Trump hasn't shied away from pointing at Democrats, at Schumer, at House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, and he's characterized what he believes is a party with lack of leadership. Do you think in these moments during the shutdown, is Hakeem Jeffries, House Minority Leader, but also Senate Minority Leader Schumer, from a Democrat point of view, have they stepped up their game? The Wall Street Journal had an article saying that, again, a lot of the pressure is coming in because Schumer in the past hasn't stood up. And I think Democrats are at this place where they're trying to get their footing. Kamala Harris had a book tour talking about sort of how the party didn't support her fully in those last 107 days or 170 days. I'm forgetting which of the two. But I mean, how do you view it? Is this the moment where Democrats have to sort of step up? Is this, are they, yes, they're focused on the Obamacare subsidies, but is this also just a standing up to the president and his policies?
Oh, first, the key point is the book on Kamala Harris. I think it's at this point not beneficial to start criticizing the party, a party that mobilized a record campaign in 107 days, as her book is titled, with all the support. So those criticisms are not helpful in this moment when you had a whole party just support you in a complicated situation. And the moment, I think the leaders, Schumer, Jeffries, they're responding to what the party want, and I think what the country also wants, which is an opposition party that stands up to the president and any extension or any overreach that he's doing and he's being allowed to by a Republican Party. Because at the end of the day, is who controls everything right now in Washington? The White House is Republican, Congress is Republican. Obviously, congressional Republicans, Senate Republicans are not being a check on the president. So Democrats have to do whatever they can do with the limited power they have. Democrats are in the minority in these situations where Republicans need 7, 5, whatever amount of votes they need in the Senate from Democrats is the moment that they need to stand up. And that's why I think Schumer and Jeffries are doing the right thing. This is the moment to show the country that there is an opposition party and they are fighting for the people. Again, healthcare is a main thing right now for everybody. It's a pocketbook issue and everybody cares about it. So I think Democrats are doing the right thing here, is taking those limited opportunities that the party has in this situation where there is no power afforded to the Democrats at any federal level to take a stand and fight for the people. It's the
Marco, I want
moment to
to,
do it. I mean, yeah.
if I could ask you on that point, and how far do you think they'd be willing to go? I think there's a little bit of a perspective that possibly the administration and Republicans might have a little bit of the upper hand. This is a partial shutdown because two things are very important. One, Republicans were able to fund a lot of the sort of services that they believe through the One Big Beautiful Bill. So we all know that
Mm.
immigration is a top priority for this administration. For Republicans, they were able to fund a lot of the border security, a lot of the ICE agents. Also, through my understanding, is that the departments get to decide who is an essential worker and sort of what is considered an
Mm.
essential task. So many of the departments are run by the appointees of President Donald Trump. So it seems like Republicans might have a little bit of upper hand. Do you think Democrats will sort of go long term? Is there a record maybe that's going to be built? I think the
Mm.
record might be 39 days. Or do you think when people start, the checks don't start coming in, the president possibly has also said that they may not just create furloughs, but they'll fire people. Do you think Democrats are ready to stand even beyond a lot of those points?
Mm. I think one of the major fears of why Schumer and Jeffries didn't do this back in March was that last point you made, which was the fear that they were going to fire federal workers like they did with the Dodge operation. And now, 6 months in, we've seen how through the judicial process there have been we people have gone back to their jobs after 6 7 months of being fired because the president did not have the power to do that. So I think the leaders were reinforced on the ability of the judicial system to protect jobs and limit the president's illegal actions like these, which essentially ended up being the president sending thousands of federal workers on paid vacation for 7 6 months. Talk about efficiency. They're wasting money. They just pay people not to work. So I think that recomforts the leaders to take the stand now. I think they could go for long because at the end of the day, people that are not tuned into the political theater that we see every day and we all pay attention to it is that who is in control of DC? Is the president? It's the Republican Party. And we see the polls. We saw how the Washington Post posted today. The majority of people believe that the people responsible for the shutdown are going to be the Republicans. So I think Democrats are shielded in a way of this. They obviously will have some risk, but I think there's also an issue of proximity to certain elections that will cause more problems to the Republicans. We have a Virginia general election in November where we're going to elect governor. We're going to have uh, hundreds of positions being elected throughout Virginia. Guess what? Northern Virginia is an area where thousands of federal workers live, people that will not be paid. So that is a risk for Republicans right now. Losing, they have a Republican governor now. The Democrat candidate is pretty strong, so they have a risk electorally of going along with this shutdown if they don't see to what Democrats want. With at the end of the day, is not. I don't think it's a big ask in the eye of the public. It is not, again, not asking money to pay for a ballroom in the White House. It's not money to refurbish a Qatari plane. It is helping working class people pay for healthcare. So I think when those key points of the issue we're going through stay in the head of the people, the federal workers in Northern Virginia, that I think carries more risk for the Republicans. So I think Democrats believe they can go for long. Hopefully not a month like we had last shutdown when Trump shut down the government because he wanted to pay for his wall. But at the end of the day, this is a stand that Democrats have to make to not only comfort and show leadership to their party, but to the country that there's another party willing to stand up to a president and a Republican Party that is overreaching in a lot of things across the country.
So let's have a little bit of a two-part question for you. One, do you see any risk on the Republican side on their stance? Do you see anywhere where this could possibly backfire? 2026, it's almost like when you're in power, you are a little bit on the defense. And what I mean by that is on the Senate next year for 2026, the map is a lot of current Republicans are up for reelection in very purple states, which means they're going to have to defend a record. They're going to have to defend, everything that they voted on, including, they're going to have a conversation around this shutdown. Do you think there are any risk if this goes long term? If it goes short term, I think both parties kind of washed their hands. In the sense that they both sort of stood up what they believe in. But one is, do you see any risk? And then two, I wanted to get your opinion on: do you believe that the president is using this conversation of possibly firing individuals as a tactic of trying to pressure Democrats, or do you think this is a real opportunity where they will look at where they deem some folks unnecessary and actually reduce the size of the workforce?
Okay, regarding the risk, I agree with Marco that there's an imminent risk in a state like Virginia. This is something that can easily happen if there are people losing their jobs especially in Northern Virginia, where a lot of federal workers live, because of obviously the proximity with DC. This can have an impact in the race for governor in that state. That being said, I think that 2026 is really far away. I don't think this is going to be such a long-term issue. As we've mentioned already, this is a partial shutdown, so I don't think people are going to remember this that much. I completely convinced that this is a PR stunt designed by Democrats who, I agree, they are not as powerless as they are trying to point out right now in DC, because remember, yes, there's a majority of Republicans in Congress, but that majority, it's a minimum majority. So they still need it. It's not that the whole power is on the Republican side. And I think that people are not silly, and people understand that there's a lot of responsibility on both sides here. When it comes to firing employees, layouts, I don't think this is going to be the case. I don't think that we're going to reach that far in this opportunity. But that being said, I think that President Trump is a doer. So he wouldn't hesitate if it comes to the point of doing that. He wants to make the government more efficient. He's been trying. It's been only a few months that he's been in power, and he's done a lot in order to make government more efficient. And I think that if we reach to that point, he will do whatever has to be done. Is this the opportunity? Is this the context in which I'm expecting to see this happening? Personally, I don't think that this is the context. I think that this is something that eventually it's going to get solved in the very short term. But when time comes, I think that President Trump will do whatever it is in his power to have less spending on bureaucracy and more money towards the issue that really affects everyday life for Americans.
Yeah, I think the agreement here is that Americans across the country, their desire is to not see a government shutdown. Their desire is to not see two parties fighting, but they would like to see, in an ideal world, a place where they could be negotiations and conversations. A challenge for the public and those listening in, if you, to the point, I think, of being tired of sometimes what we call hypocrisy, is my challenge is during these times is write down what your party is saying, write down what the other party is saying, keep that piece of paper, and then when the tables have flipped and your party is in power and the other one is not, look at the rhetoric. And something that I think most people would notice is that you could almost switch the lines, where many times the people in power, the way they blame the other team, it all seems very similar to the way that the other party was talking when they had in power. So I think in politics, there's a little bit of shifting of rhetoric when you're in power or when you're in the minority. So that'd just be my challenge to the audience there.